Welcome to the Dream Catcher. I am a dream catcher. You are my dream, so let me catch you. Today we begin with a new lesson, that is proportion. We have already studied about a ratio. A ratio is a comparison of two or more quantities of the same kind. Then what is proportion? Proportion is the equality of two or more ratios. So when two or more ratios are equal to each other, we say they are in proportion. Let's take two examples. So that is our first ratio, that's 4 is to 5, which can be written as 4 by 5. A second ratio is 8 is to 10. You can see the terms are different, but after simplifying the ratio, that is 2 4 is 8, 2 5 is 10, you'll observe that both the ratios are actually the same. So what can we say is, therefore we can say the given ratios are in proportion, that is 4 by 5 is also equal to 8 by 10. Now if four real numbers are such that the ratios of the first two is equal to the ratio of the last two, then the four numbers in that order is said to be in proportion. Two important things here: real numbers, okay, so you understand that in ratios will not have a positive or a negative, okay, it has to be a real number and generally it has to be positive. If four real numbers are such that the ratio of the first two, means the first two numbers ratio has to be equal to the ratio of the second two, then we say they are in proportion. That is, a is to b is the first number, is equals to c is to d. So a, b, c, d are the four real numbers, and what you look at the screen now is what we see as proportion. So how we read it is, a is to b is proportional to c is to d. So you can see the symbol of proportional in red. Now there are different names for each of these terms, okay, so look at it. A is called the first proportional, b is called the second proportional, c is called the third proportional, and d is called the fourth proportional. Also, since A and D lie on the extremes, they are called extremes, and since B and C also lies in the middle, they are called means. And the symbol that you see, like I told you, is the symbol for proportion. If four real numbers A, B, C, D are in proportion, then the relation among them is, okay, let's see. So that is given to us. So if they are in proportion, we can write them in proportion and we can convert them in fraction. Then we cross multiply, and this is what you get: a into d is equals to b into c. And what is a and d? A and d, like we learned, are called extremes, and b and c are called means. So what is the relationship here? The product of extremes will always be equal to product of means. You could use this relationship to solve questions, or you could simply use a by b is equals to c by d also to solve the questions. Can three real numbers also be in proportion? Think about it. Yes. If the ratio of the first and the second number is equal to the ratio of the second and the third number, then the three numbers will be in proportion. Okay, let's try to understand this. Let the three real numbers be 4, 8 and 16. So you'll see 4 by 8 will also be equal to 8 by 16, because if you simplify this, 4 ones are 4, 4 twos are 8, and 8 ones are 8, and 8 twos are 16. You see they are equal. So what we see is the ratio of the first two numbers, that is 4 and 8, is equal to the ratio of the second and the third number, that is 8 is to 16. Okay, so what is this? This is called continued proportion. So there's a different name to it. What gets continued is this always has to get continued, the middle one, okay, this is called the mean proportion. Also the mean proportion always has to get continued. So let's learn more about it, about continued proportion. This is how we write continued proportion. A is to B is proportional to B is to C. A is called the first proportional, B is called the mean proportional, and C is called third proportional. Remember, if at all the question gives you anything related to continued proportion, then remember there are how many real numbers? 3. So if there are 3 real numbers, then you have to yourself know it is continued proportion. But if there are 4 real numbers, then you have to know it is only proportion. Now what is the relationship between them? So we'll write them in the form of fraction. Now you see, you can cross multiply. B into B will give us B square, and A into C will give us AC. Square can go to the other side and become root. So if at all the question tells you to find out the mean proportion, then you can directly use the formula, okay, which is given here, that is B is root over of AC, or you can always do A by B is equals to B by C. Is continued proportion only possible for 3 real numbers? No. The minimum numbers required for continued proportion is 3, but it can have more than 3 numbers or terms. So it does not always mean there has to be only 3 terms. Okay, now see how it means. Okay, try to understand continued proportion. It is very important to know about continued proportion to understand the next lesson that will be coming up. Let's take an example. So we have one, that is A by B is equals to B by C. You see B gets continued, that is a mean proportion. If you have to continue to write it, then C, you can see C gets continued. So you see all of this A, B, C, D and E. So we have 5 terms. Okay, and it can have 6 terms, 7 terms, 8 terms, 10 terms, it depends. But what always has to be there is these has to always be equal to each other, which you see. Okay, now quickly come to page number 87 and 88. Today we are going to solve exercise 5.2 to understand more about proportion. We start with our first question. Let us find the value of x for the following proportion. So question tells you it is a proportion. So we have x is to 50 proportional to 3 is to 2. That is what is given to us. We can write that in the form of a fraction. You see, we can cross multiply. Simply 50 can go to the numerator since we have to find only x. So we're keeping x on the left hand side. You could cancel 2 ones at 2 and 2 into 25, and you've got the value of x. Start with the second question. Let us find the fourth proportional of the following. Now remember, the question is telling you to find the fourth proportional. So now you have to be careful and see how many terms are given. 1, 2 and 3. Means the first one is first proportional, the second one is second proportional, and the third one is third proportional. And we have to find the fourth proportional. So the question is only talking about proportion, not continued proportion. So let the fourth proportion be x. Please always take a different variable than what is asked in the question. Don't take p and q here. Okay. So what we know is we can write this: first proportion by second proportion is equals to third proportion by fourth proportion. It is same like writing a by b is equals to c by d. Okay, now we cross multiply. You see x will go to the numerator and p square minus q square will also go to the numerator. That is our first step. We have cross multiplied. Now you could see p minus q on the left hand side, that will also go to the denominator on the right hand side. So that is what we are left with. Now if you observe this, that is p square minus q square, that formula can be applied here, that is a square minus b square is always equal to a plus b into a minus b. So that is what we are applying, p plus q into p minus q. So you can see now p minus q and p minus q could get cancelled. What is left with is p plus q into p square minus pq plus q square. If you know the formula, then it is the formula for p cube plus q cube, that is a cube plus b cube. That would be your answer. So you should always conclude by saying therefore the fourth proportional is p cube plus q cube. Moving on to question number 3, let us find the third proportional of the following. 1, 2. So now when we observe this, there are only two terms given to us and the question is telling us to find the third one. So we have to understand it is proportion, okay, and it is which proportion? Continued proportion. So only in continued proportion you could have how many terms? Actually 3 real numbers, 2 are given to you and 1 you have to find. So let's start by saying let the third proportional be k. So we can write this a by b is equals to b by c. That is how we are writing it. We cross multiply, okay. I hope everybody understands the cross multiplication. Okay, k has gone to the numerator on the left hand side and everything else has got cross multiplied. So this is what we had. Now if you observe this again inside the bracket, I'm talking about inside the bracket, that is x square minus y square. Again it is in the form of a square minus b square. It can be written as a plus b into a minus b. And then we have a whole square outside. Now we can apply the square to both x plus y and x minus y. So it will be written as x plus y whole square and x minus y whole square. And rest of the terms remain the same. Then you'll observe x minus y whole square and x minus y whole square can get cancelled. Whatever is left with would be your answer. We cannot further simplify these terms. Coming to question number 4, let us find the mean proportional of the following. Now, when you hear the word mean proportional, then you should again know we are talking about continued proportion, because there is nothing about mean proportional in only proportion. In proportion we have 4 terms: first, second, third and fourth. In continued proportion we have first term, first proportional, mean proportional and third proportional. So question is telling us to find the mean proportional. Means what is given to you? First proportional is given to you and third proportional is given to you. Means A is given to you and C is given to you. What you don't know is B. So let the mean proportional be K. Remember this. So it's like A by B is equals to B by C. That's what we are writing here. You see cross multiplied. So after cross multiplication, this is what we get. Square goes to the right hand side and becomes root. Since both the terms inside the root have squares, the square and the root gets cancelled. And this is what we are left with, x plus y and x minus y, which again is a plus b into a minus b, which can be written as a square minus b square, x square minus y square. That would be the end of lesson 1 from proportion. Please try the remaining questions, and in case of any doubts or clarification, please get back to me over my WhatsApp number.